Hello and welcome to the Confident Musicianing Podcast. My name is Eleanor and I am a British American oboist studying at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, literally my dream school. And it took me a long way to get there. I applied and auditioned for 12 schools in 3 different countries. It was a lot of hard work, but oh my gosh, so worth it. I want you to have the confidence to work hard in achieving your goals. So come with me as we go on this journey together. So sit down, pull up a chair, take a seat, or if you're on the go, welcome to the Confident Musicianing Podcast. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I hope that you are having a good day today. It is so rainy, like it just started raining. This morning wasn't rainy and I went for a nice walk and that was lovely. But it has been so rainy recently in Scotland and it has just started raining again. Which, you know what, is lovely. Like, I love the smell of rain. I don't know if you like the smell of rain, but I absolutely love it. It is the best smell, and it is the perfect time to kind of cozy up and talk about music, talk about practicing and all of the fun things that we talk about on this podcast. So today we're going to be diving into something that I find really interesting, and I hope you do too. Basically what my practice looks like this summer, because this summer is different from any other summer I have had as an oboist, and that is because it is the first summer that I don't have weekly lessons. Because I am currently studying at a conservatoire and it's currently summer, I don't have weekly lessons, which is a new thing for me. It's really exciting, also kind of scary. Like, I haven't had an oboe lesson in like a month. What? It's crazy. For me at least. Like, I feel very kind of like this is not something I'm used to doing usually. I mean, since I think I started oboe lessons, like weekly lessons, when I was 11. So since like I was 11, which was a while ago, I have been having a weekly check-in with an oboist every single week in the form of a lesson. And now, for these 3 months that I'm not that I have the summer, I don't have that. And so I was really worried at the beginning, how would I keep myself accountable? How would I structure it? I've never had that situation, so I didn't know how I would kind of react to it. And honestly, looking back, like it's been about a month of this. I have, a few months or a couple of months still to go of this. But I thought, why don't we do a little bit of a check-in with that? Like, we just have a little bit of a chat about it, because I've had some really interesting discoveries when I am not in kind of a lesson structure, and I'd love to share these things with you. So whether you are currently having lessons and you're just curious what it's like, or maybe you're also in the same kind of situation where you don't have lessons in the summer, maybe this can help. I don't know. But hopefully it can be helpful, and we can dive right into my takeaways from what I have done. So the first thing that I think is important is kind of what my practice looks like, because I have full range. I mean, I could just stop practicing if I really wanted to. I don't want to do that. I love playing the oboe, and that's not something that I want to do. So there is kind of that. I think at the beginning it was interesting because, I had just finished my exams and I was absolutely quite tired. Like, I was feeling quite energetic, and I'm talk about that on a previous episode, but in terms of oboe playing, I was still feeling quite tired. It was kind of a double feeling at the same time. It felt quite weird, but I had to kind of rest a little bit from the oboe, so I took a few days and I just didn't practice at all, and then I started just kind of getting back into it slowly, which was good. And then I started back into it. But I think as well, I think that's important to note, I did take some time off, and it wasn't that much time, but it was a good amount of time to kind of help me reset after the craziness that is playing exams. But now I am kind of in a better routine, in a better situation where I can do this and have a better kind of form of practice and layout of practice. So the first thing that I do when I practice is I kind of have like my meat and potatoes, as you will, kind of like the main course of my practicing. You know, you eat your broccoli before you eat your cake type thing. And so for me, that is etudes, that is warming up exercises. I have like fundamental exercises where I go through things like vibrato, articulation, dynamics, scales, all of these things that I do all the time. And then I have my etudes, and those things are really, really good. And that's kind of like the meat and potatoes, or the main course, if you will. And I do that every single day, and it just really grounds me, because I think one of the things that I was nervous about at the beginning of this was I was nervous that I wouldn't stay focused. I would like all of a sudden, you know, I would blink and then the summer's over and what have I actually done, you know? But having this kind of routine where I have my fundamentals that I do every day, and then I also have my etudes that I do, that is a great possibility for me to really think about my playing and look at it in a more articulate way, and kind of focus on my growth as a player, and also not completely derail from organization, which I don't think I would, but you know, we all have that fear sometimes, I feel. So that's the first thing that I kind of do to make sure that I have that. And it really starts my day off on the right foot in terms of practicing, because I know that I've done that main course and that it's been good. And then the next thing that I do, which is really interesting, and I kind of consider this more of like a dessert, but maybe not like a complete dessert, but kind of like another course, but not the main one. And that is kind of the things that I didn't have time to explore during the school year, I can do now. So for instance, my degree is gonna be like oboe performance, and that's classical music. And for me, that's, you know, I'm so excited about that. That's what I've worked on this entire year. But I also absolutely love jazz. I love improv. I love things like that. And I didn't really have time to dive into that during my year. And so that's something that I am doing over the summer. And it's actually really exciting, because I'm like focusing on that. I'm looking at different like things in jazz, how jazz is structured, how it works. You know, I'm looking at improv. I'm taking the things that I learned in my theory class, for instance, during my year, and using them to understand jazz tunes, things like that. Like, that's something that, you know, is not part of my degree, but I actually really enjoy it. So that's something that I have time to do over the summer, which is very, very exciting. It is very exciting. And oh my gosh, like, I love jazz. I don't know if you know this about me, but I do absolutely love jazz, as well as classical music. So this is just a great thing. And I've always thought, you know, I want to do jazz oboe, in some capacity. Like, I want to have the skills to play jazz on the oboe. So that's something that I'm diving into, and it's really fun. So I think for that, you know, thinking about what is that thing that you have always wanted to do on your instrument, you know, that might not have much to do with like what you've been doing this past year. So like, depending on, you know, whether you are like are in high school right now, or maybe in university studying, whatever it is, what was that one thing that you did not have time to do during the academic year? Maybe that, you know, summer is the opportunity to do that. And, you know, for me, that is improv and kind of learning more about jazz. But for you, it might be whatever you want it to be, depending on what you didn't get the time to work on over the academic year. Just like experiment and have fun with it. I think that's a great thing, and that does bring joy. I did another episode recently about kind of finding joy in your practice and cultivating it, especially when you might get stressed from practicing, or the you know, the stress of getting things right and things like that can kind of weigh down on you. when you're practicing, when you're preparing for something like an audition or performance, how can we cultivate that joy? And that this is also something that kind of cultivates the joy, experimenting, leaving room for curiosity. And that's something that I do in my practice as well. Some takeaways that I've had, like, so that's kind of the structure, what I just talked about. That's kind of the structure of my practice. I am also going to be introducing more repertoire into my practice. That's kind of what is happening right now. And I think that I'm going to introduce more stuff to it. But that's kind of the current situation. Yeah, I don't think I've ever shared like exactly what I do in my practice with you guys before, so that's very exciting. But that's kind of what my current focus is at the moment. And I know that I want to add some repertoire because I have some things coming up, and that's going to be something that I'm going to add. But for right now, that's kind of what I'm focusing on. Now, kind of some things that I've realized and learned from having this time without a teacher, and a weekly lessons. I've learned that I've become more focused and critical in my practice. And this is weird. This is interesting. I remember I once had a teacher back in the States who said that the point of having lessons is so that one day I can be my own teacher and ask the right questions of myself. And for me, that is like, whoa, that's quite crazy. I remember sitting and thinking, oh my gosh, that's wild. Because yeah, when you become a professional, you don't have weekly lessons. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to ask those questions of yourself when you're practicing. And that's something that, is quite, when I heard my teacher say that for the first time, that was quite mind-blowing to me. But it is so true. And I don't think that I'm there yet. I don't think that I'm like, oh yes, I'm asking all the correct questions. But I have noticed that I have been more focused and more critical as a student. And I've kind of had not all the right questions, but more focused questions in my mind. I've been able to be more attuned as to what I am doing and how I can do it better. I think that there was a part of me when I had lessons that was like, oh yeah, I think there's something that I could improve with this, but I'm not completely sure. I'll wait until my lesson and my teacher will tell me. I think we can all kind of relate to that a little bit, even if it's subconscious. And I think because I've had this time without lessons, I've noticed that. I think if you asked me this a few months ago, I'd be like, no, I don't really do that. But now I'm like, yeah, no, I did do that because I didn't realize it was more subconscious. But now that I don't have a lesson to go to and a teacher at the moment, a teacher to say, I am, like, this is a thing you have to work on. I have to kind of do that on my own. And that's a very exciting prospect because I'm learning how to do that on my own, and I'm learning how to ask the right questions so that next year, when I do have a teacher, I can still ask the right questions. It can be doubly exciting and doubly focused. Yeah, I think that's really exciting. Yeah. And so I think for us, when we think about that, I wonder, asking ourselves, maybe it could be helpful to ask ourselves, are we waiting for a teacher to tell us what to do? I think in some stages it is good to do that, especially if we honestly have no idea how to work through this. But are we doing that to the point where we could be more focused, but it's easier to ask our teacher, what can we focus on, and I challenge you in your next practice session to kind of imagine you are in your lesson. What would your teacher say? What do you think your teacher would say? And see if you can work on that now. It is quite an interesting prospect, honestly, to have those questions already in your head. And I am sure there are so many questions my teacher would, say to me that I haven't thought about. I think it is so important to have, second opinions and other than your own opinion, and have input from other sources, 100%. But I think, that's something that I've noticed about myself, being able to be more focused and critical. It's very exciting. Yeah. Another thing that has been helpful in my practice is actually planning it. And that has been, that's really helpful, especially when, I don't have my weekly lessons because I'm not, it's the summer and the conservatoire academic year is not in session. And so one of the things that I use in planning my practice is a notable practice journal. Honestly, these practice journals have been so helpful because there's a space where I can plan my practice, but then there is also a reflection space. And just like we were talking about those more focused and critical questions, that is a perfect place to kind of be more focused and critical about my actual session itself. And so it's been really, really helpful for my practice. And as soon as I learned or figured out that it was helping me, I knew that I needed to tell you about it, and I knew that I needed to give you a code. So use code Eleanor15 for 15% off your journal. And yeah, get into planning the practice because it really does make a difference when your practice is planned out. You know me, I don't recommend anything that I don't absolutely love. This code is an affiliate code, which means I do receive a commission with no extra cost to you. Okay, shall we do a recap? Let's do a recap. So the first thing that we talked about was kind of having your main course in your practice, especially when for me at least, when I am not in the academic year at the conservatoire, I don't have weekly lessons. I need that kind of main course of my practice. And for me, that is etudes. For me, that is fundamental, technique practice. That has been really helpful. And then we have the kind of other courses, if we're thinking of it as a meal. And that for me, I think it's important to include time to experiment on the things that you might not have had time to experiment with during the year. And so for me, that is jazz, that is improv, more things like that as well. That's really good as well. And then kind of some takeaways is being, for me, I've been more focused and critical, which has been really exciting because I think my brain has just stepped up subconsciously. It's like, okay, we don't have weekly check-ins with a teacher. Let's just ask all the questions ourselves. And, I'm sure I'm not asking all of the questions that I could be asking because, I am a student and we are learning. But it is a great way to ask more questions than I would have been, say, if I hadn't had this experience of the summer without lessons. So it is very, very, very exciting. All right. Oh, and then also planning practice, which is helpful as well. All right, that is about it for this episode. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do show all the love, subscribe, comment, follow, all of the things. Share with all of your friends, all of your music friends. And I will see you in the next episode. All right, take care. Bye-bye.